That's the one that introduced me to Morgan Freeman.
He's arguably the best performance in the movie.
Oh, but Alan Rickman.
No. That's the most memorable performance, but that doesn't mean it's the best actual, like, craft of acting job. He's so over the top, which is fun.
And call off Christmas.
Debate started. Leave it in the comments below. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another great episode of Back to the Podcast. We are your hosts, Chris Lawler and Justin Neal. We're going to be taking another look at 1991, the movies that came out, the movies that affected us, what we saw in the theater, and so on and so forth. You never know where the topic is going to lead us. But before we dive into that,
listen up, fucker!
Of course, hit that like button.
Do it now.
Go ahead and subscribe.
Or else.
Or else what?
We've got quite a bit of viewers, and only a small percentage of you are actually subscribed to the channel.
Yeah, come on.
If you're liking what you're seeing here,
I do.
Me too.
go ahead and hit that button and hit that bell for the notifications. We drop new videos each week.
Sweet. Fuck.
So before we get into the topic of the day,
For good or ill.
Justin, I need to know, what did you see this week?
So I watched something that made me really, really happy, and it plugged in a hole in the ship, filled in a crack, you know, that sort of thing. Because I'm kind of a semi-completist, I guess. I don't beat myself up if I haven't seen like all of a director's movies.
Yeah, right.
You know, even if I've seen most, that's enough. I'm like, I do the best I can.
Not every director can bat 1,000.
I can't do it.
That's the term, right?
So
did I get that right?
But there are some things like, oh, I haven't seen that. I need to watch it. And so on my sister's recommendation, I get many from her, and they're usually really, really good. I went back and watched Mike Nichols' old movie, Working Girl from 1988.
Great movie.
With Harrison Ford and Melanie Griffith.
Yes.
And Sigourney Weaver. And I'd never seen it, and it was fantastic.
I'm so happy to hear that.
I enjoyed the shit out of that movie.
Wow. I can't believe you've never seen that before. But that's a great movie.
Again, there's just so many movies, it's hard to see them all.
Oh, I know.
That was one that I could have watched it on TV and just never did. And since no one had introduced me to it, the stars just never lined up and I never watched it. So it's cool when I get those now because it is totally solid. And I actually remember thinking when Harrison Ford was on screen, this might be my new favorite performance of his.
I totally agree.
I love seeing him as kind of goofy, you know, a little hapless. And I'm so used to either Indiana Jones or Jack Ryan or, you know, Han Solo.
Right, yeah.
That though there's, you know, humor in his smugness at times, you know, especially with like Han Solo, it's not goofy. And this was not quite goofy,
no,
but it's as close to goofy as I see Harrison Ford getting.
Very against type.
And actually, I see it more as probably closer to who Harrison Ford is in real life, more so than he plays on camera.
Yeah, right.
Because he is a world famous like drinker and, you know, kind of a cad. So I can kind of see him being a little impish. He's a little impish in that movie.
I have great memories of that movie, man. I was sitting at my apartment one time. I mean, we were in our 20s and a bunch of dudes came over to my place to hang out. I don't know what we were about to get into. And I think we were flipping through HBO and I was like, oh my God, guys, Working Girl. And everybody was like frowning at me. They were like, what is Chris talking about? But I was very adamant. I was like, this is a solid film.
It's a good movie. You should watch it.
So I got all of these people to just stop what they were doing and sit down and just watch that film in its entirety from beginning to end. And everybody was pretty much in agreement, just like you are. Like, that's a solid movie. And I really liked Harrison Ford in that. And Regarding Henry, I think is my other real favorite Harrison Ford one.
We talked about that last night, my wife and I.
Oh, did you?
Because of you.
Okay.
So I didn't put it on last night, but it's on the list. And I was like, Regarding Henry, that's one of Lawler's, right?
Oh, yeah.
That was one we didn't end up watching. But my wife had been out that night. I watched Working Girl and she came home when I was about halfway through and she's like, Working Girl, right on. I was like, this movie's great. Yeah. I'm enjoying this shit out of this.
It's a lot of fun, man. Yeah.
Sigourney Weaver is off type also.
Oh, yeah. I mean, everybody was great, but it's hard not to gush about Harrison in that one. But yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
My sister sent me a message while I was watching it. We were kind of messaging back and forth like you do. And I thought, It was interesting when she sent me a message saying that this is the one that made Melanie Griffith a movie star.
Yeah, like a household name, if you will.
And I thought, okay, that makes sense in context. I just hadn't thought of it that way. So that was really interesting. I like those little tidbits of like, and actually speaking of Harrison Ford, my mom always said that Han Solo is what made Harrison Ford famous and Indiana Jones is what made him a movie star.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, Working Girl is fantastic. What have you watched recently? Because I was really excited about that. Has anything made you excited recently?
Absolutely. I mean, once again, we were still kind of getting over a little bit of a cold around the household. So there was some binging involved and ended up watching Smile. I'm not really big in horror movies, but the wife is. She loves horror films. And like any person that knows someone that loves horror films, you're going to have to trudge through a lot of crap to see some good ones. This was one of the good ones. I was actually pleasantly surprised with this one. It's not like it's the greatest horror film and it's going to blow your mind, but kicks off with a bang, which I always like in movies. I hate it when they start off really slow. It's like, get me intrigued and interested in the world and lore and the story that you're trying to tell. Exactly. Yeah. I don't want that movie to only hook me in the last act of a film. I've seen good movies that have a slow.
Some can do that.
They can.
Sure. But
not all of them do it.
A lot of times you're like, come on, man, bring it. Or woman.
And especially with horror movies.
Person.
I really need to be intrigued. And this one, the tension, right? It just tightens the whole time. Good visual effects. A couple of moments where I was like, I don't really want to watch this anymore.
Well, it's unsettling, right?
It's just an unsettling movie, which, because I know you don't really like horror movies because, you know, monsters and stuff like that don't really get to you and everything like that.
I'm just not scared.
I'm with that.
Yeah.
This one is one of those that kind of just lingers.
Okay.
If you will.
Sure. I do appreciate those.
I like horror movies that can do that. Yeah. There's not a whole lot that have done that to me, but Ju-on comes to mind, the Japanese horror movie that was turned into The Grudge.
I remember when that came out. Yeah, my man Trip probably knows a lot about that.
There's a few that do this.
The American remake of The Ring that Gore Verbinski did.
I definitely disagree on this one.
I saw that in the theater on like a Wednesday night after work. And no one was there in the theater. And I gotta say that experience of me sitting alone in the theater watching that movie was really fucking creepy.
See, but I had the same experience because the Ju-on was released to independent movies. So I saw that at like the Angelica with only like 10 other people. And that was pretty freaky.
It makes a difference.
Yeah, it does.
So I can't say that The Ring is so scary, but I can say when I fucking sat there and watched it, I was very unsettled.
But yeah, that was it. Smile. And then I didn't
and that's Bacon's kid, right? And Kira Sedgwick.
Yeah, it's Kevin Bacon's kid. It's a good watch. And then just a small shout out. I didn't get to see the full thing, but my wife watched Red Eye and I caught the last half of Red Eye. I've never seen that with... Am I losing you on this one? It's a Wes Craven movie.
No, I was going back through the archives and I do remember Wes Craven put out that little movie.
2005, 2006, something like that.
That's a while ago. Okay.
Anyway.
How was it?
I only saw the last half, so I didn't get to see like the whole build up and plot, but I was like, This is a very interesting Wes Craven movie and it stuck the landing and it was tense. Okay. I definitely need to go give it a rewatch. So if anyone's seen Red Eye, let me know if I've misjudged the last half of the movie, if it's good or bad or whatever.
Scream is still my favorite Wes Craven movie.
I love Scream. Have you seen any of the new ones?
No, I haven't.
You haven't? I
haven't seen past the second one.
Oh, no, the third one's great. Dude, you're a Parker Posey fan. You need to watch 3 just for how incredibly good Parker Posey is.
Yeah, but I don't need to do that to myself.
No. You owe yourself.
Fair enough. I hear you.
A good Parker Posey movie. Okay. And she is solid in this one. I mean, because she's playing the Courtney Cox character in the movie and she realizes that they're going to kill off all the...
So she says,
if someone wants to kill me, I'll be with you. And since they really want to kill you, they won't kill me. They'll kill you. Make sense? None.
And it's the best. And like all the jabs that they're making at each other.
Which is a good play.
It's good.
I'm saying with a person that's going to live.
Yeah, but now Jenna Ortega's in them. I don't know if you knew that. She's in like the new 6 and now there's like a 7 or I don't even know how many there are now.
Nah, man.
Most recent one takes place
on most things you lose me after 3.
Really?
At best.
Yeah. Honestly, I think I saw 4. I don't think I was a big fan, and I think I've lost track of them after that. So, but the original trilogy is still pretty good.
No, hey, but I just...
You just don't care.
I just don't care. Have you watched anything else, or are we going to talk about 1991?
No, that was about it really this week. I would love to take a look.
All right, 1991.
at what's going on in 1991.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, exactly. What do you want to start with, man? Stuff you...
T2 Judgment Day.
Do it, man.
1991. Holy shit.
I know.
Talk about a bonkers production. If you watch that movie now, go back and watch it. What a pain in the ass it was to make that movie. It's huge. Just the scene where later on, it's probably in the end of the second act, when they're in the office building and Arnold goes up to the glass with the minigun and starts blowing all the cop cars away and the helicopter
scene.
and everything.
Yes.
If you watch that, the production value is insane. Do you know how long it took to prep and then blow all of that shit up one shot at a time? Multiple cameras.
With multiple cameras, I remember. Yeah.
But still, like, that is so hard to do and do it well.
One of the shots is a helicopter filming another helicopter, right? And those are never easy shots to do as well.
I love T2.
Can we talk about the other stunt, though, where they flew the helicopter under the bridge in that chase scene?
Wow.
They were like, no, I'm not doing that. And James Cameron's like, give me the camera. I'm going and I'm doing it. I was like, such renegade kind of filmmaking.
Cameron's a maniac. It's impressive that he thinks that he can
do whatever.
He was like, well, I'll fucking do it. I appreciate that. But anyway, T2 is what I would start with. That was a huge movie. I didn't see it in the theater. I was way too young. But it created this sort of almost mythic, in my mind, lore about itself at that time. Like, I was young, but it was this huge thing, and I remember seeing promos for it and remember all the stuff about like the AI apocalypse, and that was really kind of wild and crazy at that time.
But then, just like RoboCop, this was another one of those rated R movies that was somehow like got a lot of toys, action figures, and propaganda towards kids.
It did, you're right.
I felt like this was an action hero for me as a child because of all the hype around him and all the action figures and all the other stuff geared towards kids. Like, I still thought RoboCop was a kids movie because of the cartoon.
Yeah, they really were selling
and the toys and the video game and stuff like that. And then I saw the movie and I was like, this is uber violent.
Paul Verhoeven did RoboCop.
I know, yeah.
And it is violent as shit.
Yeah.
It's almost like exploitive violent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the uncut version is borderline.
I showed it to the wife not that long ago, and she was blown away with all the amount of blood and squibs that they're doing.
The gore.
The boardroom scene, obviously, where they come in
It's
and
insane.
then thing goes wrong. And
Hilarious.
I love it so much, dude.
So anyway, T2.
But T2.
It was really smart. What Cameron did was he took the villain and made him the hero. And that is smart.
I want to say smart right up until the fact that the marketing has ruined every plot twist for every Terminator film ever.
But we're not talking about those.
I know we're not talking about it, but I'm talking about it.
We already know that marketing departments suck.
They just suck. But the Guns N' Roses thing reference was so cool, where he flips it around and he's...
No one likes the marketing department.
You think he's going to shoot John Connor with the shotgun in the back of the mall?
Filmmakers hate the marketing department. They're their mortal enemies.
Turns out he's there to save him. It was a great moment. And it's an iconic film. Don't get me wrong. I've seen that movie way too many times. But
anyway, so T2 is a good way to start.
But it's not aged badly at all. It still holds up.
But doing an Aliens T2, like, that's a solid Cameron sequel double feature. That really good.
Absolutely. Good double feature call.
Anyways.
Good double feature. And then, of course, can we talk about Linda Hamilton for 2 seconds in this movie too? And how, like, she just...
They were married.
What? She was? I didn't know that at the time. They were married?
Cameron and Linda he's on his 5th wife.
Oh my goodness.
Now,
Okay.
granted, he's been with her for a long time, but
I gotcha.
That's the kind of dude he is. So Linda Hamilton was number 2 or 3, I believe.
Wow.
Number 3, I believe. But they got married after the first one. And I think they got divorced.
Incredible in the movie
after the second one.
Oh man. But she, I mean, once again, like she...
Don't make a movie with your spouse.
Having this female like hero, they didn't have that shit at the time. And that was like one of the first times you had seen it. Her doing the fucking pull-ups on the side of the bed is so good.
The introduction of the character is her in a psych ward doing pull-ups. And
it's the best, man.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Anyway, so T2, we can move on from that. What about you? That's just kind of what I think of when I was looking at the list. Like, that's a huge movie, T2.
And I mean, there's no getting around how big T2 was. But, you know, obviously when I look at the list and I think back to that year and like, especially what we went and saw in the theater and stuff, that Robin Hood that Robin Hood Prince of Thieves. I was about to say Men in Tights. And that movie affected me just like it affected you. Once again, banging soundtrack.
Love that score.
And then, of course, the village in the trees. Oh, who didn't want to live there? It was so cool.
I love the production design.
It's so
the
good.
Costumes are fantastic, and they feel so real and lived in. They actually feel textured and that they belong in that environment. It really comes. I think the environment really comes through in that movie.
It does. It feels great. The thing that takes you out of it now as an adult is how no one's got a consistent British accent.
The accents are a problem.
Yeah.
I just don't give a shit anymore. I hear you, and I don't disagree on any level, but I just don't care. I ignore it.
And I know you were a big Christian Slater fan already at this time, so I'm sure seeing him as the kid brother and stuff like that, I always thought he was so cool.
There was a rich man from Nottingham
who tried to cross the river. What a dope! He tripped on a rope. Now look at him shiver.
It's fun, man.
When we said we were going to talk 1991, I think Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
That's the one that introduced me to Morgan Freeman.
He's arguably the best performance in the movie.
Oh, but Alan Rickman. Oh.
No. That's the most memorable performance, but that doesn't mean it's the best actual craft of acting job. He's so over the top, which is fun.
And call off Christmas.
Debate started. Leave it in the comments below.
Actual thespians would look at, Alan Rickman and say he's just
hamming it up.
He's hamming it up for an American audience. That's exactly what he was doing. But I feel like Morgan Freeman was the one that added depth to it.
Yeah.
That it really needed.
I have fulfilled my vow.
You know what I mean? I think that's one of the anchors of the movie that keep it from floating into Costner world or whatever.
Hospitality in this country is as warm as the weather.
Any other obscure ones off this list that struck you when we started looking up whatever came out in 91?
I probably saw Beauty and the Beast in the theater. We talked about animation last episode, so we don't really need to go into that.
Yeah, we did. And I know that's one of your faves.
But actually, I would say one of my favorite things, and I have an anecdote about it. I didn't see it in the theater, but it was probably the first R-rated movie that I was allowed to watch. If my memory serves me correctly, and this is very strange. I need to talk to my mother about this. So my favorite Oliver Stone movie is JFK.
What?
With Kevin Costner.
That's an odd one to be your favorite, but okay, yeah.
Not when I tell it to you. It'll make sense for me. You'll be like, oh, of course JFK is Justin's favorite.
Because you're an oddball.
Yeah, exactly. So in the 5th grade, we were studying the Kennedy assassination.
Okay.
I was about 10 years old, and that movie had just come out, and it was out to rent, and we were studying it in school, and it was this thing where they sent home notices to parents to get permission to say we're studying the Kennedy assassination and this movie just came out. It is R-rated, but that's because of the language involved.
You a goddamn liberal, Mr. Garrison. You don't know shit cause you never been fucked in there.
Interesting.
But I remember watching it with my parents because it's really it's all language.
Yes, it is.
It's curse heavy movie. And that was the first time I had seen so many different things. One, that you could curse so much in a movie and it'd be a prestige film, because I recognize so many people like Joe Pesci from Home Alone, Kevin Costner from Robin Hood. I knew these actors. And so this was obviously a big prestige thing, but everyone's playing really bad people. And so these aren't, role models as characters. And I thought that was really interesting. But also too, I'd never seen a movie where the editing was so frenetic and he uses different film stocks, him and his cinematographer, Robert Richardson, who's gone on to work with Quentin Tarantino a lot recently, but also worked with Martin Scorsese. But they use 8mm and 16mm and 35mm and black and white and color, and just uses all these trickeries to tell all of these different competing points of view, because that's the point of that movie, is there is no concrete narrative. It's all opposing points of view, and it's these characters talking on top of each other, and one person will say one thing and then another person will say the exact opposite thing, and that's kind of the point of the situation. It's that we don't know what happened, and I thought that was so fascinating as a child, and JFK has stayed with me, and I still think it is one that is really good to study as a craft, because I think it is so well constructed on so many levels. Anyway, JFK.
No, that's great. Actually, that's going to go up on my list of shame. I've actually never seen that movie all the way through. I've seen so many pieces of that film. I feel like I know it inside and out.
It's part of pop culture.
It is, yeah. So I definitely feel very familiar with it, but I don't think I've actually sat through the entirety of it.
Sit and watch that movie. It's long and it's dense.
3 hours or something, right? That's a good long.
And it's a lot of information information.
I remember that being like on 2 VHS cassette tapes, right?
It was a double cassette.
I do remember that, man. That's crazy.
But that's probably my favorite prestige film of that year, other than Silence of the Lambs, which also came out in 1991. But we've talked enough about the Silence of the Lambs. I mean, I have talked enough about the Silence of the Lambs. So
the only thing I have never said about the Silence of the Lambs is I was a latecomer to that one. I didn't see that one until way late in life. But when I finally sat down and watched it, I was like, oh, I see why everybody likes this one. This is actually a really, really fucked up, great movie. Yeah, I love it, man.
So is there a prestige film like that for you that year that's considered this, grand craft or whatever, kind of like JFK? Is there anything on the top of your list from that year that sticks out to you?
Yes, 100%, man. This one actually, for some reason, doesn't have like the biggest following and rating, but I love it. I love the way it looks. I think it hits me here every time we get to the end, and it's Backdraft, man. Backdraft, dude.
Ron Howard directed that, right?
Yes, he did. It looks so good. They use so much practical flame effects and stuff like that.
Russell Baldwin. Which Baldwin is it?
Isn't that Billy Baldwin? William Baldwin. So Billy, yeah.
Is it Billy? Okay.
And then De Niro and Donald Sutherland in such a great...
Who's also in JFK.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
And then Scott Glenn, who I think is amazing in so many things.
In Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, is he as well? That's right. He plays her boss or whatever.
He's the FBI.
Right. Mm-hmm. Good call. This one I hold up in high regard.
Backdraft?
Once again, before a bunch of computer animation.
That was one that I saw on like TBS on Sunday. That's one of those Sunday movies, TNT, TBS sort of Sunday movies for me.
Then you're missing out on a lot of the adult themes then, because there's a lot of gore and...
That's my brother, goddammit!
Cursing and sex and stuff.
In Backdraft?
Yes.
Okay. I need to rewatch that. It's been a long time.
I own it on Blu-ray. I assure you, man. I love Backdraft, dude. So that one's way up there. And I'm going to throw that up on your wall of shame. If you have not seen that unedited for TV, you haven't seen that movie then.
A lot of these probably I haven't seen necessarily unedited. You know what I mean? Just looking through the list, it was like, man, a lot of these are like TBS movies that I would catch on a Sunday afternoon sort of thing.
Wow. I just think we had very different childhoods.
We did.
We had cable.
That's great, though, that the more we learn about each other, the more we're like,
yeah,
actually, we have very, very different.
Very different. Once it came out of the theater, I wasn't going to the theater to see it, but once it came home, I was watching it.
So I want to talk about one.
Yeah.
That's probably not going to come up on your list, and that's because it's a documentary, but it's one of my favorite documentaries.
Boo this man.
And it's about the making of Apocalypse Now.
Okay. What's that one called?
And it's called Hearts of Darkness. It was shot and directed by his wife, who was shooting footage while they were in the Philippines, trying to make the movie. And as everything fell apart between, they were using the army as soldiers and weather, and all of their shit was destroyed, and he had to come back to America to get more money and then go back and keep shooting. It's this whole thing. So she made a documentary about that, using the footage of the time that she shot. And it's so good to watch Francis just lose his fucking mind on camera as everything falls apart around him. It's so good. If you like making movies, what I mean? Like, if you want to study about not just, that movie was good, but how in the fuck did that happen? That is one of the best
behind the scenes. Okay. I've never even seen Apocalypse Now.
I can't say that you would necessarily like it.
I bet I wouldn't. That's what I'm afraid of.
The first time I watched it, I hated it.
That's kind of why I haven't turned it on. I've had plenty of opportunities, and I'm like, I am just afraid that I am not going to enjoy this.
You might just want to leave that one alone.
And then I'm going to be the guy that brings it up in conversation and be like, oh, that movie's terrible. And then I get my ass kicked or something. So
okay, so what's another thing on your list from 1991, theater or otherwise?
Well, when we were looking at this list, okay, so there's a lot of good things. I could really talk about a lot of stuff, but you know what's on this list that I've watched one too many times and isn't even a good movie, but it has an all-star cast. And then when I saw that it came out this year, I was like, whoa, we're talking about that.
What, Point Break?
No, Nothing But Trouble. Do you know this one?
I do. Dan Aykroyd.
Yep.
And Demi Moore.
Chevy Chase. And John Candy.
Didn't Dan Aykroyd either wrote or directed that himself?
He was a writer and a director.
Yeah, it's a weird movie that's kind of a hot mess and yet also really charming.
It's so odd. It's hard to look away.
Kind of an oddly interesting movie.
I need to know from anyone that's watching if you guys are familiar with this and what your memory is.
Does anyone know Nothing But Trouble?
Because I'm really surprised that you know this one too, because this is a bizarre film.
It is a bizarre movie, but I also remember being like,
yeah,
this is kind of cool. I kind of like this.
It's so weird, but like about a couple of people, I think it was Chevy Chase and Demi Moore and like one of their friends and like another couple are driving somewhere, and they like break down in this podunk town and end up having to like spend the night in this weird backyard.
Is it a mansion?
No, it's like a mansion inside of a junkyard. I don't think it's good, but I know I watched it way too many times. This was once again those movies that it was on HBO. I was able to just sit down and rewatch it.
No, I'm with you on that one. I can't explain why, but I kind of like it.
Okay. I hope there's someone out there that's in agreement and Nothing But Trouble. I would love to hear if you've got anything bizarre on the list like that and something obscure that you also enjoyed from that year. I don't think you're going to find something crazier than Nothing But Trouble, but throw it out there, man.
Well, yeah, actually, another one that's, arguably crazier than Nothing But Trouble that came out that year, and that is Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
That came out that year, too?
They don't get stuck in a junkyard.
I know. They go to hell. I know. I had to leave the theater.
Get down and give
me infinity.
Yeah, no, my sister was so freaked out by all the scenes in hell, we had to leave the theater. She was pretty young when we went and saw that one.
William Sadler is so great in that. Best of 7?
Damn right!
He's so good, though. Oh, man, how did I not see that on the list? Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, you sure that was 91?
Fuck yeah.
Small piece of my heart that, enjoys that movie.
I do. I think that...
The last act's a little bit of a hot mess, but the first parts are good. Is there a movie on here? I mean, I know we started with T2, which is a hard one to trump, but come on, 91. What else is there on there that's the must-watch movie?
Point Break.
Oh, yeah.
Keanu Reeves.
I'm glad you brought it up.
Patrick Swayze.
I love Point Break so much. And my wife loves that movie.
Catherine Bigelow directed that, and she also did The Hurt Locker, which she got a lot of, awards and stuff like that.
Yeah, I did not know that.
She is one of James Cameron's ex-wives.
Now, that I did know, yes.
She's on the list.
Yeah, because of a very famous Tina Fey joke. That's how I know about Catherine Bigelow.
Oh, okay. Was it from SNL?
No, it was right in front of her at the Academy Awards.
Oh, nice. What did she say?
I haven't really been following the controversy over Zero Dark 30, but when it comes to torture, I trust the lady who spent 3 years married to James Cameron.
God, I can't. I will butcher it if I try to remember it. We're going to have to find the clip for that one.
I think Point Break is one of those movies that it works because of the people involved. If I had just read the script, it could have been a made-for-TV movie.
Easily.
If you think about it. But it's the way it's shot, and Keanu and Patrick Swayze. It's the cast, Lori Petty, who we've mentioned before.
Hey, Utah!
Give me 2.
It's one of my favorites.
Point Break is a kick-ass movie.
Yeah, it is.
Enough said.
There are so many more movies on here. We could talk about them forever. I feel like we're going to have a follow-up episode here, but
oh my God, yes, we will.
Maybe throw out a good handful. Let's do a rapid-fire round of some other of your favorites off of this list that we didn't even get to, and maybe we'll talk about it in another episode.
Yeah. I mentioned Boys in the Hood.
Yes.
Because I just watched that for the first time recently, so I thought Boys in the Hood, that was cool. That would have gone on the list. Here's a quirky little comedy that most people haven't seen with Sly Stallone that he directed called Oscar. No, he didn't direct it, but it's called Oscar. Have you ever seen Oscar?
I've actually not seen Oscar.
I know done by the guy. Oh my God, who did Clue? He didn't direct it, but he wrote Clue and did the Michael Jackson Thriller video. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So Oscar is a quirky little comedy. It's a gangster comedy. It's a farce. I love it.
Okay.
So that's one. My Girl was one of those movies that
absolutely
introduced me to death, sort of thing, and also War and Peace. So if you haven't noticed, my microphone stand is on my copy of Tolstoy's War and Peace, which I have read unabridged cover to cover, and it's because of that movie, My Girl, when she says,
"Well, I guess I'll go home and finish off
War and Peace," and at that time it gave me this idea that it was like the Mount Everest of books, and it fucking is.
Okay.
But I have climbed Everest because of My Girl.
Nice. All right, 2 more.
Yeah. Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's
Nice.
Dead.
Yeah, okay.
Love that movie.
That's some silly fun.
Yeah. And then, but we've talked about Robin Hood.
One more. You can do it.
I really do like Beauty and the Beast. It's one of my other favorites.
There's nothing wrong with that one, man.
Anyway,
right.
okay, so give me yours.
For me, I was a latecomer to it, but the second I saw this movie, I love it. I tell everyone, if you've never seen Thelma and Louise, you are missing out on one of the greatest films ever
that's
movie.
on the list.
Like, I love that one. Addams Family. We were just talking about Wednesday and how great that was. So that one was on
I
here.
didn't
the
bring it
first
up
one
because
was
we actually
fun.
talked about it on the last episode.
Yeah.
So,
But
yes,
yeah,
Addams Family
for sure. And then how did we skip over Hook? I don't even know. Hook is like my childhood, man. And even though it hasn't lived up, throughout my adulthood, Secret of the Ooze, TMNT 2 came out this year. We were having kind of a laugh. I didn't remember back in my childhood that they literally came out a year apart, basically. They rushed that sequel out so fast. That's crazy. And then kind of
sell toys. We gotta sell toys.
I know, and that's what that second one was about. So there's so many more, but since I have to throw it out there, Father of the Bride, one of my favorite Steve Martin performances. I really enjoy that. I'm not a father. I don't understand why I have a connection to this. I'm not even big on weddings and stuff like that. But that movie,
like Steve Martin, though.
I like Steve Martin, and I like Martin Short a lot as well. And then B.D. Wong as his little apprentice on the side is so good too. One of my favorite movies of all time came out this year, and we didn't even mention it. So we're gonna have to do another episode. No, you'll find out next time. So we definitely have to have another episode. If you guys enjoyed this, please comment down below. Let us know what you like and what you want to see more of. And of course, let us know what your favorite movie is from 1991. Did we mention it? Did we skip right over it? Did we dog all over your favorite movie? Let us know in the comments below. And of course, hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out making more content that you enjoy. Join the Facebook group at Facebook or Back to the Podcast discussions. We're having a lot of fun over there, sharing memes, stories, taking polls, and just having some fun talking about some more stuff off the air. And of course, keep it tuned right here to Back to the Podcast for more content just like this. We put out videos every single week. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, stay epic.